Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. 5x3 Radio. Rebecca and I are here. This lovely, rainy
It's
Wednesday.
being fantastic. It's gross, rainy, and windy.
It's pouring right now, and I'm glad I'm inside and not outside.
I gotta go walk. Oh, I can't say that. I gotta go WALK, the DOG soon.
Yeah, because he'll hear it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. It's all over.
I think actually the dog can spell too. So I might have just blown it there, Emily.
If we hear the dog kind of go pitter patter near Rebecca, then we know that podcast is over and that the dog can actually spell. So we last time we were with you, we spent some time talking about training anxiety or training with anxiety, and discussed some different ways that people might find themselves kind of in a anxiety-ridden state, while training, and how it's okay to be conscientious and nervous about your lifting. I mean, especially if you're excited about it. It's another thing to be kind of stressed about your lifting. And
I think we talked last time too. Nervous, and excited.
Yeah.
Same physiological response. It's all
exactly.
Just training.
So today, I got a wonderful article. One of my members came in. She gave me an article from an actual newspaper. This is only because when I train people who are 65 years and older, they still read newspapers.
Yeah, it's on paper. Emily sent me pictures of the paper.
I'm cracking the paper too. So I had to take a picture, like multiple pictures of this article for Rebecca, because I said I don't belong to the Wall Street Journal. It's from the Wall Street Journal, and I don't have a subscription, so I can't go online and get this. And here you go. Here are some pictures. You better blow it up and get your glasses on. But it's and my client knew exactly why I would like the article, and she was absolutely right. So it was from end of February of this year, and the title of it is why, quote, all in is no recipe for success. And she was absolutely on point when I read it and why I enjoyed it. And I told Rebecca right away, I said, okay, we need to do this for our podcast, because I think this is quite in line with the way that we think in regards to our strength training, in regards to training, and how we talk about training with our clients. So we thought we would maybe touch on this article and kind of do a little review of why the all in can be not really the best for a successful run, or a successful meet. Or a swim, whatever you find yourselves training for or competing in. And this was written by a runner. So this was kind of in terms of running, but it's more just athletes who specialize in a specific sport, and those who go all in and have blinders on and focus just on their sport, versus those who are a little bit more well-rounded in their.
Yeah, and I think it was like also the idea that it's not necessary, it's not a recipe for success long term.
Right.
That we get fed this notion that you need to be all in, 100% committed, and there's value to that. There's value to dedication and to showing up even if you feel like crap and you don't want to.
Right.
And so it's not to disparage any of those positive traits that we might associate with the notion of being all in, but it was over time, if you're all in, exclusive of anything else, any other interests or any other focus, that it's detrimental. And I actually thought you sent me the article because the example, the guy who was writing it, who was a runner, started getting like anxiety, performance anxiety, because he was so all in. He was so committed and focused on his numbers and on his performance.
Yes.
And he was getting anxious and wasn't enjoying the training and started seeing sports psychiatrists or psychologists. And
Hmm.
the suggestion made to him, and he was younger and a guy at this he
Right.
was like, the suggestion was, oh yeah, the different athlete that the sports psychiatrist had worked with got over a similar bout of training anxiety by picking up knitting,
Hmm.
by starting to knit. And so
Hmm.
the author was like, that's, bullshit. I'm not going to knit.
Right.
And I was like, oh, Emily probably loves this.
I,
She's all
well,
about the knitting.
and of
But
course,
the point being that the other athlete had gotten over the training anxiety because they had broadened their
yes.
perspective and they had become a more well-rounded person with more interests in their life, more
Hmm.
things to care about, and more
Hmm.
things to put their focus and attention on.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And
It
this,
might be knitting or it might not.
yeah, and this, I mean, this spoke to me on many levels, and definitely as coach, strength coach, and also somebody who started strength training, mid 30s. After coming somewhere towards the end of my dancing career, that I danced my whole life from the time I was probably 4 years old until I retired at around 39, right? And I still do various performances here and there, like Nutcracker, right? Not as much dancing, but still, performing. I always said dance was never my life. It was always a part of my life. I could tell, I knew even in high school, even though I went to the School for the Arts and I was training there, and many students who go there, there are many who come out of school and either go to college or go into maybe a dance company right away if they're really good enough to audition for one of the main companies. Actors go on to perform on Broadway or in movies or TV shows, and then there are many who graduate and don't do anything with their arts, their art background, turn to something else or use it as a way to teach others or become teachers or doctors or occupational therapists or PTs even if you're a dancer. And that was kind of me. I didn't know what I was going to do with my dancing. I just knew that there were other things I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I knew that from the very beginning when I was in high school, and I longed to be part of the backstage crew in addition to being on stage performing,
Oh, yeah.
because the
Let's
backstage crew did so much to make us look good,
make the
right? The
magic
lighting.
happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would stand in the back, in my tutu for snow, and I begged Derek, who was back there, who was one of the teachers who was back there on headset, to beg. I would beg him, can I put the headset on? Can I put the headset on? And I put the headset on, and I'm in my snow costume, my tutu, and I'm just sitting there listening to them talk about, cues and this and that. I'm like, oh my God, this is the life. And I realized in that as much as I enjoyed being on stage, I also enjoyed being backstage. And I pursued that into when I was in college, and I decided I wanted to major in dance. So, and I had that feeling all the way through, even into New York when I stopped for a bit and then came back and was working at Center State. I had all these different jobs and different careers, very much like, but always kind of came back to dancing. Dancing was still important to me, but it was never going to be my sole thing in life
Yeah.
because I
I mean, it's
wanted
like a
to,
difference between like that's a thing that you did.
yeah.
It wasn't who you were.
And I found that I was
Yeah.
successful as a dancer because I had those other activities and those other hobbies and those other desires to do something else. So my dancing, I really fulfilled the dancing for me by dancing with different companies, with different performers, different pieces, and really trying to find like my groove. But I always had something else I was doing. I was mountain biking, or I was rock climbing, or I was going to the gym doing my thing, and I was, had done even was doing some wardrobe still. So I had all these other parts to me, and that made my dancing that much more fun and enjoyable. So I was never a professional dancer, but I danced on a recreational level and enjoyed it tremendously.
Yeah. And I think having those other things, like we're talking about this being all in, not necessarily being a recipe for success over time.
Right.
I think, if you are singularly defined by one activity,
Yes.
that becomes who you are and the definition of who you are, as opposed to just a piece of your life or one thing that you do. If you get locked into where you are solely defined by that one activity, it makes it a lot harder to deal with changes or transitions in life or different seasons of life or like injury even, like how many people do you know that have one thing that they focus on, they get injured, and then they are completely depressed because they can't do X, Y, and Z. And those are
Yes.
the only things that they know how to define themselves by
Yes.
the gym, as
Yes.
opposed to being able to say, like, okay, well, I'm still going to go into the gym and lift, even though right now I can't squat or, whatever.
Right.
Like,
I've said that so many times when when talking about strength training, because with strength training, there are so many, uh, it's like with modern dance, I always say there's a branch. Modern dance is like branches on a tree. There's so many different types and styles of modern dance. Strength training, there are so many different styles and types of training that you can do. You can use kettlebells, you can use dumbbells, you can use barbells. There is no right wrong program for you. It's the one that works for you, right? It's the one that's going to give you the most, to get the most out of it. And we can modify so many different things and we can change up things so quickly. Whereas if you're only a runner or you're only a swimmer and that's all you ever do, and then you find yourself kind of, I can't run or I can't swim, many people just throw their hands up and say, well, I guess I might as well just sit on my butt because there's nothing else I can do. Whereas strength training is kind of like it's a sport, right? Powerlifting. You can come in and the world is your oyster in the gym. You can do this and you can do that, and you can choose from many different different implements. Obviously, it would help to get a coach to kind of help guide you in that aspect. So maybe you can get back to your running and your swimming, and then ideally, maybe now you have two parts to your training. You've got your running. Oh, and you've discovered something new. And now those two are coming together, and now you're a little bit more well-rounded than you were as just a runner or as just a swimmer. When you're talking about a kind of obsession, I started thinking about Black Swan because I'm thinking about dance and how a dancer, she became obsessed with getting a certain role and having a certain part and being better than anybody else and being the best dancer. And she drove herself, crazy as a
is that
result. Did you ever see
a
the movie
movie?
with
No,
Natalie Portman?
I don't know it.
Yeah, it's like a thriller.
Oh,
And
okay.
and she's like the White Swan, the Black Swan, and Swan Lake are the same. It's the same dancer, Odette and Odile, but they have like kind of like the two sides to them. Like they're both, fighting for each other, like who's going to win, the good versus evil. So in Black Swan, she's just obsessed with being the best out there, the best dancer, the best ballet dancer, and it drives her crazy. It drives her nuts. And I think that can happen to many people who want to be the best at something,
Mm.
that they become so not one-sided, but
Single-minded.
single-minded that they can't see anything else and they won't go out with their friends to dinner, and they won't go out to a party, hit a bar for a night, have some fun. They won't do this, they won't do that, because they're so like, no, I gotta train, I gotta train, I gotta train, and you burn yourself out, and you actually you make yourself worse, not better, because you're accumulating, let's say, maybe injuries, and you're accumulating, you're not sleeping as well. And it's, a circle, circle, circle. So the article really talks about, having other experiences. One person was painting, glass blowing, sculpting, knitting, creative writing, something else that puts your mind, allows you to focus and learn a skill. All these are like skill, like learn a new skill
Mm.
and then hone that skill. And then you have this activity that you can also do. And then all of a sudden you find yourself a lot more focused on your main activity, right? Because you have that other
Because you've
Uh,
had a little vacation from obsessing about it
Little,
during your
yeah,
day.
yeah. Like, go for a run, you try to, and then you go to your creative writing class and you write, or you go to your painting class and you paint and you relax and you step out of that mindset, that single-mindedness of, I've only got, if I'm going to be the best of something, I can't do anything else. And it actually defeats the purpose that people are trying to.
Yeah, like I
Really.
wonder how that works because like athletes do better at their sport or at their activity when they're in like that state of flow. And the more your critical brain gets in your way, the more difficult it is to get into that state of flow. And just
Right.
as a recreational athlete who gets like possibly potentially stressed out over like, oh, the program says I'm supposed to do X this week and this is a bigger weight than I've ever lifted and
Right.
you freak yourself out. Like you, that critical brain gets in the way of your ability to experience any sort of flow or enjoyment in the moment of doing whatever that activity is, or whatever that sport is. Um, and so you have something else to do or else to focus on during your week. It quiets that critical brain down, and then maybe that doesn't come along with you to the gym.
Hmm. And that may be why we talked about anxiety, right? That 5 years ago, when I picked up my knitting needles again and started knitting, because it was nearing the end of 2020, and I was getting really antsy. And I was like, I've got to do something with my hands because, I had this nervous energy. And I was like, I wonder if I should start knitting again. And I picked up those needles and I haven't stopped. Right? It's been 5 years. Maybe that's why I don't have the anxiety anymore of training as I used to, right? Because like I said to Manny, I was like, I don't have any training anxiety. And I know I did. I know I've had it. I mean, I definitely obsessed about numbers and I had many crying fits in the gym and frustration of like, why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? Or even, anxiety going to jujitsu. Why can't I do this right away? Like this is wrong. I should be better by now. All that kind of passed when I started knitting. Well, I also stopped doing jujitsu, but my training I kept pursuing, but I don't have those. I don't have that anxiety anymore. It's just like I do this because I came back to why do I do this? I do this because it makes me feel good. It really makes me feel good. I do this because not too many people do this type of training, right? And especially as a dancer, because I still consider myself a dancer, dancers don't do this. So kind of bringing dancers into this, it's exciting. It's still exciting to teach somebody new how to do the lifts.
Yeah.
It never gets old. It never ever gets old to teach somebody new how to squat or how to press. It is it's not, there's nothing boring about it. It's exciting. Everybody comes in and it's like I got to teach somebody how to squat, and it's wonderful when you take somebody who can't figure it out and 20 minutes later they're squatting and they're below
Yeah.
parallel and they're
Yeah.
neat and they understand what they're doing and they understand this and they know where the bar goes. It's like I did that. I did that. You did that. We did that. So I think maybe the knitting is what has calmed me down because it's been 5 years now already. Already been
It's like
five
that.
years.
What was that little meme I sent you where it's like the steps of knitting, stab it, strangle it, scoop out the guts, throw it off a cliff. Yeah.
Now, it could be that I listen to a lot of true crime too, and I listen to a lot of things on serial killers. That also calms me down. So it could be the knitting, it could be the serial killers. We don't know. We haven't figured that out yet. But something I want to bring up too, because we were talking about this just before we started recording. The why all in is no recipe for success, but we also talked about the another all in that people kind of have issues, right? If I can't do anything, if I can't do it all, meaning I can't get in the gym and train like I usually want to because my schedule is a little bit crazy right now with work or kids, or I got to travel, or my mother-in-law staying with us, and I hate my mother-in-law, but I can't, but I have to be there because then there's that attitude of like, well, if I can't do everything, if I can't do all of it, I'm not going to do any of it. So
Yeah.
you want
All
to
or
talk about
nothing.
that all or nothing attitude versus
Yeah.
we have the all in, how that's not really a great mindset to be in. What about the all or nothing attitude?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of similar at first glance, but like, I think the all in has like an overtime component to it. It just wears you down
Right.
or erodes you over time. Whereas like the all or nothing, it's sort of more in the moment. So in the moment, if you have an all or nothing attitude, your choice is going to be, I'm going to do all of it or I'm going to do none of it. It's almost like an excuse to bypass whatever the activity was because you don't have ideal circumstances. Like
Right.
whoever has ideal circumstances. So, like to be able to go in and do most of your planned lift, not ideal, but better than doing none of it. But sometimes people just, they're so rigid in their thinking
Mhm.
and they're not able to, and I guess both of these all in or all or nothing are rigid ways of thinking.
Yes.
Um, and just with anything, to be flexible, to be able to modify, to be able to find the best scenario in a given situation, as opposed to just throw the whole thing in the trash, is going to get you further in the long run, get you
Yeah.
more results.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, I didn't, when we were talking about the article and you brought up the, well, all or nothing, I was like, oh yeah, that's another side to the coin, right? Where, you have to follow this program. Well, the program calls for, well, who cares? I always tell people it's not set in stone. Like we may teach you three lifts in the beginning, like we're getting you started here at the gym, we're going to teach you three lifts. And there are four main lifts. We're going to teach you three of them. And then the next time we're going to teach you a fourth one and we're going to go over the other ones. But I want you to know that just because we teach you all three lifts and we're going to do that in the hour that you have with us, I don't expect you to always have the ability to come in and do all three lifts, right? Any given week, given your schedule. You're an adult. You've got adult things, right? Jobs, sickness, kids, parents, whatever it is, right? And I think that people they forget that, or they're used to maybe people telling them, if you're not doing this the way that it says in that book or what I give you, you're going to just lose out. You might as well not even do anything. And there's some people who are like that, right? You're not doing the
Well,
program.
I mean, you get all of those go big or go home
Right.
kind of slogans that reinforce that kind of thinking.
You
I
know,
think it's better to kind of think about the program as what you've got written in your training log in pencil.
yes.
It doesn't become inked in until that ideal program penciled into your training book meets the reality of your day and your body on any given day, and that what you actually do is your training log in pen. So it's like there's the rough draft and the final copy.
Yeah. And you
Coming
will,
from an English major.
yeah, no, yeah, you exactly. No, but that's exactly it. And that rough copy, that rough draft, hopefully you did not, do it in, in pen so that you
Yeah.
can erase, right?
Yeah, and I'm
I,
talking old school too,
oh
right?
yeah.
Paper,
Oh,
pen,
totally.
pencil. Like if you do it on the computer, if you
I
do it on
know.
your phone, you just delete, delete, delete.
I remember having to write papers in ink, right? And this was when we had to do cursive too. We had to write, so I had to do cursive. I had to write in
What
cursive.
was that,
And
like your elementary school?
no, this is in high school.
Oh
Dude, this
my
is high
God.
school. High school, I'm still
You
writing
weren't
in
typing
cursive.
papers. You weren't typing
No, not
papers.
yet. Dude, the printer was,
Yeah,
it
it
took
was like
forever. I couldn't type. It was easier to write. It was easier to write. I think typing came much, much later, much, much later.
no, Emily, I'm older than you, and I was typing in high school.
Okay, I don't know what
Like
high school
on a
you went
word
to.
processor.
Yeah,
It was
on
a
a word
word
processor.
processor.
Yeah, well, it was easier to write. I just had to be very,
Okay.
very mindful of, how I was writing, not mess up because I couldn't erase it. Um, well, we also had to turn in a rough drafts. So I had to turn
Yeah.
in like what I wrote
Mhm.
and then turn in the final copy. And the final copy has some things had to be written, couldn't be typed. Like we had to write it. This is okay. Just saying, those are my teachers.
Okay.
I remember typing in college more than I remember in high school.
But we
Now I've
digress.
lost my train of thought. Okay, no, it was about the all, coming in. So I'm really proud of my clients who show up and I haven't told them this and they show up and they come in, they go, I'm really pressed for time, so I'm going to get my squat in. And maybe if I have time to get my press in, I'm like, great, yes, you're here. And I haven't said anything. I never said to them anything. They figured it out on their own. They knew that
Yeah.
coming in and not missing their training session was going to be better than coming in than not coming in, right? And I know now what I want to say. You'll be more consistent and you will make better well, not you will make better progress. You'll be more successful, excuse me, more successful
We're
if
successful in the long run.
in the long run, if you do not miss your training day, but just say to yourself, I have a half an hour or I have 45 minutes. That gives me enough time to squat. That gives me plenty of time to deadlift and maybe even bench or press if I'm supposed to do that that day, because deadlift should take, 5, 10 minutes, not even. So no, you will be more successful. You will make better progress if you don't miss those days because you will have gotten in, done something. And then next time you come in and you have time to do all three, great. You won't have to take weight back. You won't have to skip the 3 sets. You can do the 3 sets because you did the squat already. So you're ready to move right on. You're not going to be too sore. You're recovered just fine. I had to tell that to one of my newer clients online. And when I emailed him and said, look, let's try to get your program set up so that we can maybe do 2 lifts or one big lift. I'm happy to create anything you need. You will be more successful if you stick to 3 days and do one or two rather than just skip all of it. And he wrote back, thank you for this. Because we need to remind people and that it's okay. We need to give them permission. They want the permission. They want the
Yeah.
permission and
I
they
was
thank
thinking
you.
about this when you were talking before about the client coming in and saying, "Oh, I only have 10 minutes," and how proud, or not 10 minutes, 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
you're so proud. And I'm thinking, like, how much personality plays into that. Like, some people just naturally have that, like, gym is not their priority. They're not rigid in their thinking.
Right.
They, they're like, well, if I do, they just kind of naturally have that
Mm-hmm.
attitude or that
Mm-hmm.
outlook. And so it's like, yeah, it's like the person who's rigid in their thinking, when they get around to being able to think that way, that's a huge
Huge.
accomplishment. Some people just start out there, or they don't
Right.
even care
But
so
that's
much to
it.
begin with. But the other thing too is I think it's how people find you or hear about you in the first
Yes.
place. So if they have already consumed a lot of starting strength material, and that's
Mm-hmm.
probably more likely if it's a client that you're working with online or that I'm working with online,
Right.
done their research,
Yes.
who's read, the books and the logic and the science and the math of the starting strength program makes sense to them. And they have this notion that the program YND, YNTDP, whatever.
Yeah, you're
They're
not
not
doing the
doing the
program.
program right,
Yeah.
and they have that notion drilled into them, and so they kind of show up already with like
Mhm.
much more rigid
Oh
thinking.
yeah. And this person was that. This person was, I
Hmm.
mean, he came to us a few years ago for a camp.
Hmm.
And that's the thinking,
Yeah.
right? Is that if I'm not doing 3 days, 3 lifts each day, I'm not going to be successful. I'm not doing the program. I might as well just, throw my hands up and say, well, I can't train and I never have time to train. Bad idea. Bad idea. And that's not many of my clients. My clients may have heard of it. All they know is they like this kind of training or they want to do this kind of training and they know, what we do at 5x3. They know that we coach. But I really do appreciate it when people show up and they're like, I have a couple who have a little boy and the mom came in and she's like, we're gonna tag team today. I'm gonna come in and do 2 lifts, and then I'm gonna go home, and then my husband's gonna come in and he's gonna do 2 lifts. And I'm like, I love that because they tag team when they're there. They bring him to the gym on Saturdays, and he's lovely.
Uh-huh.
He's 2.5, and they tag team. One starts to warm up. They get to their top set. They rest. They come and play with their son. The other one starts their lift, warms up, and then they just go back and forth like that. But I love that. It was like, I'm going to do 2 lifts. And there wasn't that, is that okay? It was just, I'm going to do 2 lifts. And I went, great.
Yeah.
You're not missing your training day. Like, this is important to you. This is a priority. It's but the rigidity is not there. The all or nothing attitude is not there. And that's just who they are. You're absolutely right. It's definitely personality. The ones who come in with that relaxed personality have other activities. They've got other things. One's getting ready for his wedding in a few months. So he's been running and comes, and they're dealing with their little boy. And so they have other things that they have to take care of. This is part of their life.
Yeah.
This is not their life. It's part of their life. It makes their life better. It makes their life better, but they're not going to consume themselves with this. And if they don't come, well, I might as well just stop because if I can't make it, and then there are people who don't make it a priority, and then hopefully maybe they'll find something else, or they'll get a second
Oh,
wind, and so that's not.
we actually do need to wrap it up because
Ah,
yeah.
okay, good. Well, I think we've kind of covered exactly what I kind of wanted to talk about. I do want to end with this. And I circled the very end of the article because I wanted to, it speaks exactly to what we were talking about even last time with the anxiety. So at the end, I'm just going to, other performers I surveyed, this is the author, spoke of simply putting the experience above the outcome. As one world-class runner put it, I had to know when to throw the watch away. An entrepreneur relayed to me, somewhere along the way, we numb ourselves to the experience in the name of chasing metrics. And then the very end says, it's better, he said, to remember what the motivation was for the enterprise in the first place. It's the feeling, the excitement, curiosity, just this energy that makes us feel alive. And
Yeah,
that, I
that
think,
flow
speaks,
state.
yeah,
Yeah, that flow state, and then also being in touch with what is your why? What's
exactly.
your bigger rationale, bigger
Exactly.
reason?
I
Keep
think that comes,
reminding yourself of
yeah,
that.
that comes back to, why are you doing this in the first place? Bring that excitement when you first started back into your body, relive that again, and don't let go of it. Don't let go of it. So if you want to check out that article, it is in the Wall Street Journal. It was from Saturday, Sunday, February 22nd to 23rd of this year. Go check it out. Why All In is No Recipe for Success. Let us know what you thought by sending in comments, or if you've got questions about anything else that we didn't get a chance to talk about and you would have liked to have heard us discuss. We're happy to get your thoughts. You can email me at emily@5by3.com. You can also email Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
We look forward to being back with you guys in another few weeks with a new podcast. In the meantime, have a great week and stay strong. Thanks, Rebecca.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks for listening to 5by3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5by3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's FIVE, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.